Hello, kia ora, g'day. My name's Kevin from Gilbert's Fine Food here in Dunedin in the lower part of New Zealand. We're all in lockdown at the moment, obviously, and a lot of us are practicing our baking skills. For some people, it's learning new skills. For others, it's learning baking altogether. A lot of flour has been sold though, and I get phone calls and emails regularly saying, cool, I've got the flour, now what do I do with it? So I thought I'd take the time and just run you through a few simple things to get you going. Today, we're going to start with tortilla wrap, call it what you want to. It's a soft flatbread, no fermentation required, and you can have this done in about 30 minutes from scratch and onto the bench, onto the table. So the ingredients we're going to have are flour, water, you can't see it in the white bowl, but that's salt. Then we've got baking powder and a little bit of oil as well, just to shorten the crust, to shorten the crumb. So what are we going to do? Well, first up, if you've got a mixer, you can absolutely do this in the mixer. No problems there. But for those of you who don't have a mixer, a kitchen bench and your hands is just going to be as good. If you've got a scraper, these things are fantastic. Wee plastic bench scraper. If you haven't, again, use a back of a fish slice or anything that you can do. You can even just use your fingers and make a well. I'm just going to make a bit more of a well in there now, like that. That's called a well. I didn't come up with a name. Then we're going to put in the salt and the baking powder, as well as the oil. So everything's going in at once. With the oil, it does tend to keep a little bit in there, so make sure you scrape that all out. Get rid of those. And then in goes the water. Now, you don't want the water to be too warm, because if it is too warm, what's going to happen is that baking powder is going to start activating and it's going to start fizzing too much. And then as you're running your fingers around, you open up your palm or your hands like that, and you just run your fingers around, nibbling in at the sides each time, just a little bit of flour. What you don't want to do is go too quickly through there, and then you're going to break that dam. You're going to break that wall, and the water's going to go flooding out over the bench. So just a little bit of a nibble as you're going. And as it starts to thicken up, you'll notice that it's going to start thickening up the water in the middle, which means it's not going to flow as fast away from me if the dam does break. That's another good reason for having a scraper, is if you do break the dam, you've then got something to be able to stop it and bring it back in. This is a really handy tool. You can see now it's keeping the tracks as I run my finger through. So that means I can then start bringing in the flour from the side. I can either do it by my fingers like that. That's going to take a bit longer. That's when my little friend the scraper comes in, and you just bring them together. And when I was taught baking a long time ago, I was told that this is what's called the fleece stage. Now, for anybody who's spent any time on a sheep farm, that may look a little bit familiar. I think I've been on a sheep farm maybe twice, even though I live in New Zealand. And there we go. That just dispels a rumour and a myth that people have about Kiwis and New Zealanders. We don't all own sheep. We don't all live on a sheep farm. Okay, now that that is up and going, I'm still going to keep my scraper close at hand, and I'm still going to try and keep this hand as clean as possible, but I'm now going to bring this together with my stronger hand. So the way of doing that is I'm going to be using my palm to push away and my fingers to pull it back. Okay, so I'm just going to push and fold over. Give it a turn, push and fold over. Just to show you more accurately. Down, away, fold over, do it again. And then you're just going to give it a flip, and you'll see that seam is at the top. Do the same thing, down, away. It's not that just ruins the dough. It's that. Alright. And if your right hand or your dominant hand gets a bit sore, swap over. No problems at all, and you get fairly quick at it. So gluten is a protein that as we work it, we mesh it into kind of become aligned, and it comes into a web-like structure or a net-like structure. It'll also happen if you just hydrate it. It'll happen naturally if you hydrate the flour and just let it sit for a while. But we're just speeding things up by kneading. So you can see now you're starting to get a little bit more smooth on the top. Those big gaping wounds are almost disappearing. That's where I'm going to leave it. I don't want to take it any further than that. You can if you like. Me personally, I found that I don't need to. So what I'm going to do is just a gentle version of that knead, just to bring it to a round shape. Let that sit there covered with a damp towel or a bit of plastic or something like that for about 10 minutes just to relax that gluten again. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes. It can be anywhere up to sort of 15, 20 minutes. The reason we cover it with a damp towel, by the way, is just to stop a skin forming on the top. If it gets too dry, it's just going to form a really tough skin that when you then pin it out, it's going to start cracking and just look really unappetizing. So you know it's finished, or you know it's ready to go, when as you push it, before it was bouncing straight back as soon as I put my finger mark in it, whereas now it's not. So that's relaxed a little bit, so I'm able to now go to the next stage. The next stage is to scale it up, and here we're going to be making 16 portions. If you want to scale it, it takes it to around 48 grams, I think it is. So I've got 8 portions here. And so I'll show you now the principle of rolling around. What happens with a lot of people is they put their hand on the top and they just roll around like that. Now, sure, that's going to get a ball, but that's all it's going to get. That is going to get round, but if you're wanting to take it to the next step, what you want to do is stretch that surface skin as you're molding it. That way it's going to tighten around and it's going to create this lovely tight dough with a smooth surface on it. So the way of doing that is there are 2 main ones. There are those who go clockwise and there are those who go anti-clockwise, but the principle is exactly the same. You're just using either your thumb or your fingers. I'll show you the thumb version first. That's for going clockwise. So you keep your thumb on the ground, on the bench, as I'm coming around, and then I use my fingers to keep the ball turning. I make a wee cave out of the palm of my hand so that as it's going around, I'm stretching that surface skin by pinching it between my thumb and the bench, and you can see as I move sideways, dragging my thumb across the bench, I'm stretching that ball. And so what happens is you get a nice smooth round surface. All right, going the anti-clockwise way, you're doing the same thing, but instead of using your thumb to tuck under the ball and drag across the bench, you're using your fingers to do it. And so this way you're tucking it around and using your fingers to drag it across along the bench. It's nothing totally technical, there's nothing highly scientific about this, and then you've got a nice smooth round as well. All right. When you get really good, you can then try it with your other hand. Most people are going to start with the dominant hand. I'm right-handed. And when you get relatively good at it, you can then do it two-handedly. So there we go. There are 8 roughly even portions. That's going to sit there for another 5 minutes just to relax off. I'm going to wrap that one up and put it into the cooler for tomorrow, into the fridge for tomorrow. And I'll see you in about 5 minutes. Okay, it's been about another 5 minutes, so these things have softened up and rested up a little bit, so we're able to move on to the second stage. Don't panic, this is the final preparation stage, then we get to cook them. So what we're going to do is dust the bench. I'll start with just the one. What I find easiest as well isn't just to put it on the bench on flour and then dust it. I actually take it and I roll it in the flour, and that's going to be just fine. And you're wanting to keep it as round as you can. So that just means each time you roll, give it a bit of a turn. One of the things with rolling pin, is that people often put more pressure at the back because it's closer to the body and they're feeling stronger there than they do further away. So what you'll find is that there's this slant, that it's thinner at the closer to you than it is further away. So just keep that in mind, and as you're rolling, as you get further away, just put a little bit more downward pressure on. So that is really quite thin. You can almost see my fingerprint through it. I'm just going to leave that off to the side to relax while I pin out some of the others. Okay, there we go. I've now got 8 tortilla wraps ready to go. So follow me over to the stove where we're going to start with a dry fry. Cooking tortilla or wraps is often thought of as frying. It's not actually frying because there's no oil involved. You want that pan to be dry. Dry as a bone, fairly hot, not searingly hot because it still needs time to cook its way through the wrap, but absolutely no oil. Don't be tempted to even just give it a light spray. That's not what we're going for, okay? Now, this is also very much like anybody who's made pancakes. The first one normally doesn't go particularly well. Same thing here. It's going to take you a while to figure out what's going to be right for your pan, for your oven, for your stove, and for the thickness of the tortilla that you've got. So once you've got your pan to the heat that you're looking for, or that you think might be right, you plonk one in. That's it. Now we wait. What you're wanting is for it to start bubbling within 20 odd seconds. If it's not bubbling within 20 seconds, it's then going to be, you need to turn the heat up. If it bubbles too quickly, turn the heat down slightly. Now, this has been what? About 20 seconds, give or take, and you can see I've got some bubbling coming up. So I'm fairly happy with the heat at the moment. So I'm just going to make sure I maintain that heat and turn the temperature down. You're waiting for it to just get a little bit of colour on the bottom, and then you're going to flip it over. Ideally, this whole cooking process is going to take about 2 minutes. Okay guys, here we go. Here is a plate full of lovely, soft, pliable wraps, tortillas, call it what you want to. So now you've made them, what are you going to do with them? Well, the obvious thing is to use them as sort of like a wrap or a roll up. Put the filling in, roll it up, job done. You can also use them as sort of like a soft shell taco. You can use them as for a burrito or anything where you're wanting to put the filling in and keep your hands clean. This is the one for you. Hopefully that's given you some tips and techniques to help with your baking at home and the confidence to be able to make wraps, tortillas yourself. If you've got any questions or if there is something that you'd like to see, please do let me know. I'll put a link through to the website with the recipe in the comments section below. So from me and the wonderful city of Dunedin in the lower south of New Zealand, I say thank you, ka kite, and we'll see you again. Cheers.